Hey everyone, this isn't the final word, it's just the way I see it. Welcome back. I'm your host, Michael Baumler. Today we're going to talk about when personal rights quietly turn into public entitlement. Somewhere along the way, inconvenience became oppression and impulse became a right. Now, that little sentence has been rattling around in my head for a while now. Because once you hear it, you start seeing it everywhere. Everywhere. I saw it last week when traffic was blocked downtown. It wasn't blocked because of an accident. There was no emergency crews. There was no construction. It was blocked by people who believed that their message was so important that everyone else's day no longer mattered. And in the turmoil, horns are blaring, employees are late for their shifts, people are missing their trains, drivers are losing money by the minute. And when finally someone loses their patience and speaks up, the response wasn't dialogue, it was pure outrage. "How dare you inconvenience us?" was the remark. That's the moment I realized something had shifted. We all talk endlessly about our rights, and we should. Rights matter. They're foundational. But at some point, we stop talking about where rights end and where responsibility begins. And into that sentence, entitlement moved in and made itself very, very comfortable. Because here's the uncomfortable question we almost never ask. At what point does exercising your rights start violating someone else's? We've built a culture where, I deserve this has become that ultimate mic drop sentence. No explanation required, no cost acknowledgement, and no responsibility accepted. I deserve to be heard. I deserve convenience. I deserve comfort. I deserve access. I deserve results. And, if you or I stand in the middle of that, even accidentally, then we become the problem. We've confused freedom with doing whatever we want, whenever we want, regardless of the impact. Think about how often inconvenience is treated like a moral failure now. For instance, at the airport, if a flight is delayed, it isn't frustrating anymore, it's unacceptable. Any business reinforcing policy, it's not a firm position, it's oppressive. A disagreement in the boardroom, it's not a difference of opinion, it's targeting hatred. And the tolerance for friction, well, it's gone completely. Any resistance, any pause, any, not right now, is treated like an attack, and it sometimes turns violent. That's not strength. That's fragility masquerading as justice. And here's the part that's hardest to admit, because it implicates all of us. This isn't just about protests or politics or social movements. This shows up in grocery stores, in schools, in customer service lineups, online, and probably even at home. We interrupt because waiting feels beneath us. We raise our voices because silence feels like disrespect. We demand exceptions because rules feel too personal. I shouldn't have to deal with this. But why not? When did dealing with things, patiently, maturely, and without applause become optional? There's a phrase that I keep coming back to. I've said it a few times in the office. Zero tolerance for inconvenience creates zero capacity for coexistence. A society can't function if every individual believes their urgency outranks everyone else's humanity. And yet, we reward this behavior constantly. The loudest person wins. The angriest posts, well, they spread. The most disruptive action gets the attention. So disruption becomes the currency. And entitlement, well, you guessed it, that becomes aggressive. Not loud at the time, but sharp, demanding, and certain. It sounds more like, well, you owe me, or you should already know, or this shouldn't apply to me. And the moment someone pushes back that shield, well, it comes up. It's my right. Don't you know who I am? But rights were never meant to be weapons. Rights, well, they were meant to protect us from tyranny, not excuse us from basic decency. And this is the line, at least the way I see it. A society obsessed with rights but allergic to responsibility eventually eats itself, self-implodes, because responsibility is the invisible infrastructure that makes freedom livable. Responsibility is what says, I could, but I won't, or I'm frustrated, but I'll wait. I believe this very strongly, but I won't bulldoze you to prove it. And without restraint, every interaction becomes a power struggle. And that's where we are now. Everyone feels wrong. Everyone feels owed. But no one feels accountable. And maybe that's why everything feels louder, harsher, more brutal than it used to be. So here's the quiet challenge. Not to them, but to us. The next time you feel entitled to immediate gratification, the next time your inconvenience feels like injustice, the next time you're tempted to say, this is my right, ask yourself one more question. What does this cost the people around me? Because freedom without consideration isn't freedom. It's just impulse with a moral costume. And that's the way I see it. I'm Michael Baumler. I'm out.